Welcome to Road to the Trials Season 4. This is one of your hosts, Lindsay Hine. Joining me today, Peter Bromka and Matt Chittum. We are so grateful to interview Dakotah Popehn in this episode of Road to the Trials. She placed third at the Orlando Olympic Trials in 2024, making her first Olympic team, and she went on to place 12th at the Paris Olympics. Dakotah was a walk-on to her D2 school, the Northern State University Wolves. She is currently still coached by Coach Chris Lundstrom, and her dreams are bigger than ever. She bets on herself every single time. She has a 2:24 marathon PR, and she is heading to Chicago this fall to, I think, demolish that PR. We'll see what happens, but we are rooting for her every step of the way. She also has her sights set on the 2028 Olympic trials and has every intention on working her butt off to make that 2028 team. Please enjoy this conversation with Dakotah Popehn. Welcome to Road to the Trials. We are so excited that we finally kicked this series off, and we've got our fourth interview here with none other than Dakotah Popehn. Welcome to the show, Dakotah.
Hi, I'm so happy to be on. Honored to be number 4. Hopefully I'm number 1, 2, or 3 at the trials, though.
Eyes on the prize. I like it.
Yeah, if history repeats itself, you're on the podium for sure.
You're definitely going to run faster than Jeff Cunningham, who was the third interview. So that's for sure.
True.
Okay, all right, good.
For those listening, I'm Lindsay Hine, joined with Matt Chittum and Peter Bromka. The three of us are co-hosting this series, and we just kicked it off a couple days ago, so we're super excited. Obviously, Dakotah is high on the list of people that we wanted to kick this whole thing off with. We mentioned it in the intro episode. There are 22, is that number right, Matt? 22 people who already are qualified for the Olympic trials before the window opens, and those people include everybody who's made an Olympic team since 2016 and then those members of the world's team. Dakotah, let's just start this with, you've been asked this question before, but so that it's in this series, what does it mean to you to make that Olympic team?
It's everything in this sport. It's kind of the pinnacle. A lot of people would call it like being the most successful. And I guess I kind of feel that way. I wake up and every single day think about 4-year segments and how, I'm working towards Chicago right now, but my mind is really in 2028 getting ready for the trials. So it's what we, center everything around. So it means everything to make an Olympic team.
If you go back like 4 years ago, would you say the same thing? Is it were you planning that 4-year cycle ahead, or were you at a different point in your career where that wasn't necessarily like the front and center primary goal moving forward, even, 2.5 years out?
I was 4 years ago definitely thinking about Orlando. I don't think we knew it was there yet, but the 24 Olympics, even before the 2020 Olympic trials, I was thinking about 24 as the year I would make the team. I went into the 2020 trials very much like I'm going to learn. I'm very young. This, I think, was my 3rd marathon in Atlanta. So I felt like, okay, if I can really take my experience here, I'll be able to use it in 24 to make the team, and hopefully 28 and 32.
You've talked about several times, I've talked to you about it personally several times, how you really knew you were going to make the team. Like you know something, but then also you still have to run the race and things all have to go right for it to happen. Let's just talk about that a little bit. Like when you're in this like high pressure situation, such as the Olympic trials, knowing in your heart that it's there, how do you walk through that race then?
It's such a hard team to make for that reason, because it all comes down to that one day. But it's high pressure and you're aware of it, but it's it's almost indescribable because it felt like that whole day I was just watching myself. I wasn't like really present within my body. I was almost like watching a movie of myself because it felt so calm, and I did know I was going to make that team. I felt so confident in it. So it was just kind of like, oh, I know how this story ends. So I had a lot of peace that day, and being able to bring that to big events is not something I can do every single time, but it's something I do feel like I have a strength of.
I'm curious. I know you've talked about this on other podcasts, but now that we're revisiting just the momentousness of the trials, what was how did you tackle Orlando at 10 a.m.? I think for a lot of us, we thought the three of us were all jogging around on the course like, this is going to be brutal. This is going to be so hard. But I know if you're going to put yourself in position, you had to just compartmentalize. And like, how did you break that down? It was brutal out there.
It's so funny when people say that because I disagree. I feel like I've run in much worse conditions. I do feel very fortunate that I left for Orlando the day after Thanksgiving and lived down there for 2.5 months, and would purposely, when it made sense with my schedule, try to run as late as possible and, do afternoon doubles on the hottest days. So I felt like when I was racing and after, everybody was like, oh my God, it was so hot. And I was like, it kind of just feels like Orlando on any other day. And then, so I just felt very prepared for it that way. And I do feel like I'm a really strong heat runner. So I guess it didn't bother me nearly as much as it seemed to have bothered other people.
This is a great reminder too about like how temperatures can be relative based on what people are used to and expectations, right? I mean, people who do, the triathlon world championships are in Kona and they're running like in 90-degree heat at the end of like a triathlon. They're running a marathon. And I remember that race, I was positioned like under an overpass with about a mile to go. And it was, you guys ran past that point at like 3 different points in the course. It was a great spot. But I remember this because in the shade, people were wearing jackets. But like in the sun, it was like a 20-degree swing. And it reminded me, like, if you're used to this isn't going to feel crazy. But if you're coming from like the Northeast and you haven't been down to Florida and you've been running in like at a high of 48 degrees, this is going to be brutal.
Yeah, I think being prepared for the conditions is something that's so easy. Like, there was so much complaint over the start time and the location, and I didn't care. I didn't care as long as they would just set it and keep it that way. So I knew exactly what I was preparing for, exactly what I needed to do to get there. And it's not, I mean, I understand that not everybody can go to Orlando for 2.5 months, but you can buy a sauna suit and run in it. Like there's so many different things that you could do. Run on the treadmill, pull a CJ and just put like a bunch of heaters in a room. There's options.
I was curious, you lived down there. When did you acquire those, your now iconic shades that apparently are from Amazon?
Yeah, I got those shades literally like a week before the trials. My best friend, and I was living with her at the time, Annie Frisbee, she was down in Orlando with me. She ordered a pair of shades off of Amazon. I was like, oh, that's a really good idea because like 90% of the time I like to throw them anyway, like if they get uncomfortable. And so I just found a random pair to buy, and then they became very cool, which was, I don't think I've ever considered myself a trendsetter, but that made me feel very, very cool.
It's iconic.
Yeah. Are you going to wear those in Chicago this fall?
Maybe. Yeah, I kind of have a rotation now. I was given obviously some cool shades for being on the Olympic team, so those are hard to get rid of, but I am very against wearing sunglasses if it's cloudy. I don't like that. Or if it's hot, I don't really like them. So, it just depends on the weather.
Dakotah, there's certain athletes who, in their own way, have this strong connection to dedicated amateur runners who are also trying to do amazing things. Obviously, you're a pro and you're one of the best in the world. With that said, there's certain people like Kira D'Amato is a good example of this, someone who kind of like laid back and then came back and had like this wonderful burst on the scene moment in her 30s. Jacob Riley had that moment where like people are like, wait, who's Jacob Riley? Like, wait, he's on the Olympic team, and like that connection point. You, for a different reason, coming from your running background, have also had this strong connection where people are like, wow, look what Dakotah did. And while I might not be as good as her, who knows what I'm capable of? Can you talk about the mental or physical components that you think allowed you to have this rise that can be translated to people who are trying to do something similar in their own reality?
Wait, I just want to just jump in here too, in case people listening don't know, like the backstory that like Dakota ran D2 and then just like the place that you ran for the 2020 trials and just like the way you climbed up and just had this like unrelenting belief in yourself. It didn't just happen.
Yeah. So I was a walk-on to my Division II program. When I got out of college, obviously wasn't showered with sponsorship opportunities. I worked full-time for a lot of those years. Actually, I was working full-time when I made the Olympic team, supporting my running that way. And to me, it is very easily summed up in one sentence, is that I am just dumb enough to think I can. And so I guess and that's a mean way of saying it, but I'm just naive enough to think, why not me? I don't know why I have that so ingrained in me. My parents have been just the most supportive people, and I feel like they fostered a childhood of me just thinking I could do anything. Like in middle school, I thought I was going to be the first woman to play in the NHL for the hockey. I was going to be like the first goalie who was ever a woman. I just have that in me, and I think so often we fall short because we just give up on ourselves. And I feel like my story is a really great representation of what if you tried for one more month? What if you tried for one more day or one more hour? And you just never know what's going to happen.
I'm curious. You'd run a couple marathons. You described the 2020 trials and that being a learning experience for yourself. And I'd maybe love to hear about that as well. But really, I wanted to zoom in on our paths actually crossed at Grandma's 22. I was blowing up, and then here you come. But in looking at the stats, so correct me, you won Grandma's 21, correct? But then talk me through, you cut off a huge chunk of time between 21, 22 on the same race. How did you get I think that's what so many runners aspire to. They think if I just do the work and I'm going to I don't know, go all in or just bite off more than maybe I can chew it. How did you think about just going from 229 to 225 is a different light year.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I'm gonna knock on wood. I'm pretty injury free in running, and I think the marathon specifically rewards your ability to put marathon build on top of marathon build uninterrupted. I would even argue that my 229 probably wasn't my A day. I think I had more in me. I just really fell apart in those last couple of miles, so it was just kind of all about piecing everything together, and it happened to come together when I ran that 225. Um, but I just think it's the consistency that's allowed me to take big chunks off of my PR time after time, and hopefully we'll see that again in Chicago.
So soon.
So Dakota, when you're approaching these major goals, and you described really well how you've always been a dreamer who had not, I wouldn't say expectations, but it's really cool to hear I want to do this, I want to do that. The hard part for a lot of people is when they have those visions of greatness, dealing with that zoomed in failure that can happen along the way for all of us. And that's like a lowercase f failure, like the workouts that don't go well, the races that don't happen, and stacking those on top of each other can end up kind of lessening maybe our goals or potential expectations for ourselves. How have you dealt with that along the way?
Yeah, gosh, well, I dropped out of my very first professional marathon and CIM in a million years ago, 2018, 2019, I don't remember, 2018. And I struggled for a long time on the roads, being very much outside the top 10 in a lot of races. And I think what has helped me is having people around me who can kind of take you out of that very narrow focus of, it being black or white, good or bad. Having a support system who is there to cheer you on and try to redirect your focus. I'm very lucky to have a really great coach in Chris Lundstrom, and I can think of 10 bad workouts right now where I wanted to just cry at the end and think like, oh, this isn't for me, that he was able to be like, well, you had that really long run, you had that really hard long run on Sunday, and maybe you're fatigued from that, and we've done a lot of big mileage, and just having people who are going to be more like maybe a step back from it, from to just kind of look at the bigger picture where you're going to be so focused on, oh, that 1 mile was really bad, or that one workout was really bad.
Road to the Trials is supported by V.O2. This is the best training platform out there for coaches and runners. Whether you're coaching hundreds of runners or 5 runners or a dozen runners, this platform is versatile for all types of coaches. It is so simple to use. It has simplified my coaching experience, and I know you're going to love it once you try it out. Created by the great Jack Daniels. The formula they use is created by him, and it is one of the best training systems out there. Go to v.o2.com to learn more. Thank you so much to v.o2 for supporting Road to the Trials and believing in the work we're doing here.
It's funny how like there's pockets within sport, all different kinds of sports, where excellence can get cultivated, which then leads to this positive cycle of more excellence coming behind it. And for some reason, and please enlighten us, Minnesota seems to be that way for endurance sports. Again, it isn't merely running, but endurance sports and Minnesota seem to go together like hand in glove. Yes, that pun is intentional. So please allow us to get into that vibe and that culture, because it does seem to be a pretty remarkable thing.
Yeah, I always joke it's because our winters are so harsh. Like we're from like October to sometimes like April, we're just waking up and just trying to survive every day. So we have a grittiness about us that just doesn't let us quit. I think it is in our culture to just be very heads down, get the work done, no complaints, no excuses type of people. So I think that's part of it. And then also, like you said, there's just a history of great runners. Like I saw Carrie Tollefson and Kara Goucher and all these amazing runners who are from Minnesota. So why can't I? And it just kind of snowballs from there.
Courtney Dauwalter, isn't she also?
Courtney Dauwalter, yeah.
Like we've got the gamut.
Scott
We've got the
Jurek.
miler to the
Yeah,
200
Scott
miler.
Jurek. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Joe Klecker. I mean, then we could talk names forever.
Yeah. You, speaking of a grittiness, you just ran a half marathon PR. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. I'm still working through it a little bit. I was very disappointed with it, unfortunately,
Really?
which
Tell
is
us
exciting.
more. Tell us
Yeah.
more.
So I really felt like I can run in the 66s. It was in Ireland, for those who don't know, and it was a fast course. I don't think it was as fast as it was publicized to be. So I felt a little deceived by the hills and the wind, which I maybe should have known Ireland is windy. That's on me. But I really think I can run around a 66:30 right now. So to run a minute slower than that was a pretty big disappointment. And my fitness is really strong. So I think it's always a blessing to be disappointed with a PR.
Yeah, because like you got it in there. It just didn't happen on the day.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're also raising funds for the American Cancer Research in honor of your mom for Chicago.
Yeah, I am working with the American Cancer Society to fundraise for them. It kind of fell into my lap, and I couldn't turn it down. It obviously I don't need to fundraise to get into Chicago.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed and am an elitist, who gets their entry paid for. But I love this idea of why would I not use my platforms for something that is so meaningful, especially to me and so close to my heart. So yeah, it's been really fun. And so I love to get my emails. Lindsay, thank you for donating to my fundraiser. I just sent your thank you in the mail. So.
Aw. You're welcome. Yeah, we will link her fundraising page in the show notes of this episode for sure.
I will say I'm in like 7th place for the most fundraised by any participant, so I'm working to climb up that ladder.
I mean, I feel like we have an Olympian in our midst. We should be able to get you on the top of that ladder.
I was just at the track this morning talking to some athletes preparing for Chicago, and you're really in the thick of things right now. Like, how do you think about it? I think a lot of athletes are like just in that moment of struggling. I put my hand on a man's shoulder and said, like, you're also in it right now, and just try to trust things. But like, how do you go about it? How do you structure these weeks, and how do you mentally break it down?
Yeah, I am in it. Let me tell you, I am in it right now. I'm exhausted. I'm like cranky. I'm hungry all the time. And the way I break it down, and I don't know if this is like helpful to the public or not, but like on Wednesdays I have a midweek long run. So I did 15 miles this morning, and I have 2 more midweek long runs. 2 more weeks of it. I have 3 more Sunday long long runs before the taper. And so I just try to break it down so it seems like a smaller chunk, I guess. Which it's always funny, and I try to remind myself I like high mileage. I love to run a lot of miles until I'm in it and I'm doing it, and I'm like, who asked for this? So I just try to remind myself that I am the one who did this to myself.
Are you the type of athlete who's like asking for more volume, or like questioning it? Like, where have you evolved to now in your career?
I am the one who's like, more, please. Until,
Really?
of course, until I'm like right now. And I'm like, how am I going to get through 2 more big weeks after this one? But I am somebody who like opens my training log every Sunday, crossing my fingers for like a mileage PR.
Oh my gosh, which would be what? Because I know you notoriously have run like 120, 130 miles a week.
Yeah, so I've been doing 120 and 130, like alternating back and forth. So I would love to get up to like 135 or 140, but
gosh.
like that's towing a line of maybe that's too close to injury, and who knows what the repercussions of that would be.
But you talk about that, like to fuel that. Like you are well fed. Like you make sure you get it in.
Yeah, absolutely. I am eating like most of the day.
Yeah. It's just wild to me the range of mileage that pro runners are running. Like I just had all the 3 women from Team USA for the marathon champs on my podcast, and like they are all like 75, 80 miles a week. Like, and I was like, that's pretty low. And Erica Kemp's like, I beg to differ.
Oh.
Oh my God, 75 is like I could take a whole day off.
Yeah. It's just what I mean, because that's like you're running like 50 miles more than them a week.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
so
and
much.
like I'm always jealous because my, like I said, best friend training partner Annie is more of a lower mileage
she?
marathoner. And I'm very jealous of it, especially when we were doing training camps together as I'm going out the door for my like 5th double of the week, and she's sitting on the couch in a Normatex. I'm like, dang it. But I do feel like I'm not as gifted at running as most people are. So I think I make up for it.
Says
in
the
hard work.
Olympic marathoner.
I had to work really hard to be here. It wasn't, I wasn't a state
For sure.
champ. I wasn't even a state qualifier. So it's something that I feel like I can make up for in hard work, which is why running is so awesome. It's not black or white. You can get better.
And it's interesting
Yeah.
to see how we've seen this with other people too. Like we see this in ultra runners all the time, where sometimes their whatever talent that they have doesn't express itself until they have a certain amount of mileage. Either that's weekly or monthly mileage or lifetime mileage, and it starts to express itself in a way that undoubtedly leaves them at the top of the field, and also makes it seem like, hey, this person's like obviously was incredibly gifted and all of those things. And certainly to be an Olympian, you need both. You need to be incredibly talented and be an incredibly hard worker. With that being said, how has your training day or training week evolved now that maybe you're not working as much? Like you said before, like you had a full-time job or you were working the last time you qualified for the trials. So what's it look like now in terms of time allocation? Have you kind of filled that time with any new modalities or training methods that maybe weren't part of the process before?
Yeah, so when I made the Olympic team, I ended up taking like kind of like a break from work, which turned into me like dropping my job altogether because I was just too busy and didn't want to get to the Olympics hoping I had done enough, I guess. And I was very worried. I'm a very busy body. I don't sit still for long. So my job was as a paralegal was sitting at my desk. So in some ways, I thought that was super helpful for me because it forced me to be sitting. And now that I'm not working as much, I am still at my computer a lot I coach on the side, but I've filled my time with just taking care of my body more, which you tend to need when you're doing 130 miles a week. I'm spending a lot more time in the sauna, seeing my chiro, my acupuncturist. I'm doing the small things now that hopefully will lead to me having a longer career, which I'm very grateful for because I was definitely cutting those out when I was working full time.
How do you feel like you know when it's too much? Because I think, when we see these low mileage runners, like a lot of times it's because they're like, I don't want to get injured. How are you like reading your body to know like, oh, I might be going over the line here?
This is a really hard one for me because I don't tend to get injured. I tend to just really get into I've only really been what I would consider overtrained once,
Okay.
and it really just felt like I couldn't run any faster than like I could not run a mile repeat faster than marathon pace. I could not get out of that zone. And it was going into New York in 22, and I ended up dropping out of New York when I was running like 730 miles, 16 miles
Wow.
into it. So, I feel very lucky that my overtraining turns into just like bad running versus injury. Again, gonna knock on some wood there. But for me, it's just exhaustion, clearly.
I forgot you were a coach. I knew that, but I had forgotten. So it's sort of interesting. What do you say, like putting your coaching hat on it for a moment? Like if athletes say to you, like, Dakotah, you run so many miles, I want to run so many miles. Like how do you think about your own progression? If someone said that to you, how would you sort of address it to them? Sign me up for the 130-mile a week plan. Here we go.
Yeah, no, I would say absolutely not. But I've been doing this for, oh gosh, forever, since 2009. So it's been a very long progression of me running more and more. In high school, I'm probably similar to you guys. I grew up without the GPS watch, so Lord only knows how much I was running in high school and most of college. Um, but in college is when I really started to ramp up, and I got up to like a 16-mile long run, and then from there, slowly over the last 8-ish years, yeah, I went from 80 miles to 130. So it's not been like overnight. And I spent a lot of time at like 100 miles was my max, and then 110 was my max. And now I get to max out at 130, which is what I asked for.
All right. I feel like you got to have a nickname somewhere in here. Like you're just like, it's the Minnesota Nights, but it's like, let me just scoot right by you. I'm just gonna like,
Excuse me.
excuse me, pardon me.
I'm gonna go win this race.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's so many miles, Dakotah. I'm just like, it's so wild to me to think about.
To go back, this crew, we're obsessed with the Olympic trials. And you had this amazing moment of being in this bubble, but like, can we rewind to a few miles to go? You ended up beating fourth place by 15 seconds. So like, talk us through those final stages. It was a decently large loop and you're coming back by the crowds. Did you sort of trust that you had it? Were you running like a little afraid? Any looking over your shoulder? How was it?
I really wasn't afraid, and maybe a little bit too naive that way. Because I passed Carolyn Rovtich, and then people started giving me information, and I was like, where are you guys? I need more. I need this in every race. I heard like 2 seconds, 5, 7, and at some point heard like 15 seconds. I was like, this number's growing. And it's one of those moments where you're not really in yourself. You're almost just watching yourself. And it's like, you just have to trust, do everything you can, and not think about what this means if this race ends right now. Because, it's a marathon and anything can happen in the last 2 miles. I was super lucky to have an incredible support system out there. I remember seeing one of my teammates with like a mile and a half to go and her just saying, nobody wants this more than you. Nobody wants this more than you. And it just kind of helped me keep my head down and just, chug away. And it's really hard to push yourself when you're all alone because at that point, Emily and Fiona were like probably finished at that point. But yeah, I mean, I had no idea that Jess was hunting me down, but
Mm.
I would like to believe I had it in me to fight if I needed to, but I'm glad that I didn't have to find out.
Well, speaking of that fight near the end, a lot of people who are listening to this are, either going to be on their own Olympic trials journey. And if they are, they're probably going to be right on the line, right? Like I might get it, I might not. This is going to be a couple step process and so on and so forth. So how do you handle those finishing miles, whether it's 1, 3, 5, whatever, maybe the full 10K after 20, where you're on it. Like you can't imagine going any harder. But even with that being said, things continuously get harder as you build up the fatigue and things get sore and maybe the fueling gets harder or things aren't going down. How do you push through those moments to make sure that you're going to be racing as best as you can and you don't live with the regret of, oh, if I'd only done this or that can so easily pop up afterwards?
I truly believe that in those moments, like the time, the place, the money, that stuff doesn't really matter. Like you can't really motivate yourself with it. It's too easy to let the pain is too insurmountable to say, oh, I've got to, move up so that I can get this place or this time. I think that's when you really have to dig into your reason of why in the world am I doing this? And it better not be to make a lot of money. It better not be to, place high or, run a fast time. The reason that you're doing this better be really sure-footed on the belief in yourself, the hard work. You have to love, love, love to run. And I think if it's too surface level, that's when you see people really fall apart. You've got to dig into what it is that drives you. For me, I try to go to like a hymn and try to keep like a something towards God in my head so that I'm either praying to him or trying to sing a hymn to help me get to the end. And that's kind of like where my footing is just trying to glorify him as much as I can.
What's your favorite hymn?
At the Olympic trials, it's not as much of a hymn as it is like contemporary Christian music. It's a song called Lord, I Need You. And I was singing Lord, I Need You over and over in my head.
Yeah, you're speaking so strongly to like that intrinsic motivation that we all know that any big goal has to come from that. Like the external motivation can only take you so far.
Yeah, absolutely. If I remember actually at the 2019 Grandma's Marathon, I was very close to, I think, 4th place. One of my teammates was like, "That's $1,000 right there." And I was like, dude, I do not care. It does not matter. Like that's not a driving force when it feels like your quads are about to fall off the bone.
100%. I'm curious, like, do you have big feelings about the fact that after this trials, like the Olympics are actually going to be in the United States?
Yeah, I'm super excited about that. It makes me want to make this team maybe even more than I wanted to make Paris, like, and I can go to LA at any point, like
Yeah.
it's, even though it's, home, I think it being at home is what makes it very cool because I could have so much more of my family come out um, and I just remember the vibe in Paris for the French athletes. It, it could have been like the last seated French person and they were so pumped about it, and I just think we'll have that times 10 in America.
Okay, so speaking about being an Olympian and thinking to the future, what's it been like this last year being an Olympian? I'm curious, like, being a professional marathoner is a little niche. Like people are probably like, oh, wow, really? Is that a thing? But where does any stories about when it's come up, like, actually, I'm an Olympian?
Yes, absolutely. I actually think it happens pretty often. Especially golfing, I do have an Olympic tattoo. So this summer, a lot getting paired up with like random people. It always comes up like, oh, what do you do for work? I was like, well, I'm an Olympic marathon runner, or like I'll have like my arm out, and they're like, so are you an Olympian? Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time. I kind of forget it's there. So every now and again, somebody will be like, are you an Olympian? I'm like, oh my God, you know who I am? And then I'm like, oh, no, they just saw my
My
tattoo.
tattoo.
Did you know you wanted to get the sort of traditional Olympic tattoo?
Yes, absolutely. It was for sure my dream, and I got to get it with Carrie Tollefson, who was an Olympian for my team way back in the day.
We love Carrie.
Yeah.
How do you have time to golf?
I don't really know how I fit it in, but it's like one of my biggest, I would say, aside from running, one of my biggest passions right now. It's a
Really?
really great outlet, and it's very safe for my body. And, I ride in a cart, so I don't need like the extra mileage of walking 18. So it's very like low pressure for my body. And I just really love it. So you make time for the things you love naturally. Sure, would sitting on the couch and watching Netflix be better recovery? Probably, but it's good for my mental health right now.
It just occurred to me that they're like, please don't say you were an Olympic golfer. Please don't.
Like totally every single time I'm like, not in golf,
Don't
because
worry.
I am a very average golfer.
I'm just hoping someone gives you a hard time about like not walking the 18 holes and like sitting on the cart. If only they knew. If only they knew what those
I would
legs have
lay
been
into
through.
'em. I'd let them know I probably ran 20 miles that morning.
Yeah, again, we're so obsessed with this race that happens every 4 years and how it brings so much energy. I'm curious if you rewind, do you have any memory of when you first became aware of the Olympic marathon trials? Like, how old were you? Where were you in your running career? And like, did you think that was something in your future immediately, or when did that come about for you?
I was 21 years old when I found out about the Olympic trials, which is also not very conventional. My college coach, I was giving a recruiting trip for a potential athlete in college, and his parents said, "Oh, surely you're not done running after college. Like you'll keep, you know, pursuing it in some way." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll probably, move to the marathon, run some local 10Ks." I was not thinking competitively by any means, and my college coach said, "Oh, I think you could qualify for the Olympic trials in the
Mm.
marathon." And I was like, "What does that even mean? What pace is that?" Like, what, I had no idea what it meant. And so literally the next day I went into his office with a pen and a notepad and had a bunch of questions. How do I do it? What pace is that? What races do I run? So I was a full-blown adult before I realized what it meant. But I immediately was sold. I knew the moment he said it, it felt like every puzzle piece was put into place in my head. I was like, that's what I'm here for. That's something that I can do.
Then what's the moment? Because all these years later, you run the 2020 trials, and then once you're finally training for the 2024, and you say going into the race, I'm making this team. When did the reality of like, oh, I can make the Olympic trials to I can make the Olympic team? Those are two very different goals.
They are two very different goals. And when my coach told me he thought I could make the Olympic trials, that is strictly what he meant. He did not mean like someday you're going to be an Olympian. Obviously, I've had like
Yes.
at that point I was at like a pretty lackluster career. And when he said you could make the Olympic trials, I heard you can make an Olympic team. It's one of those, it's that naive or dumb mindset I have of like, oh, why would I just make the Olympic trials? Why wouldn't I just go make the team also? Just like when I ran my very first marathon in college, a trail marathon, my coach was very against it. He said, why don't you do a half marathon? I said, why would I do half? I'll just go do the full kind of
Uh-huh.
thing. So it's just my mindset of like, why would you just aim for the Olympic trials?
And then one more question. We do need to wrap up, but just like the competition in the American women's scene is just I mean, it was just as thick in 2024 as it's going to be in 2028. And I just want to hear you talk a little bit more about like the self-belief, knowing that all these other women are like also very, very good and very determined. When you said your teammate said like, nobody wants this more than you, my brain thought, except maybe Sarah Hall. You know what I mean?
That's so true.
Right?
I love Sarah so much, and she
Yeah.
probably like that's very true.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where rising tides floats all boats, and so the American scene just getting so much better, I feel like only elevates me. And as much as I think I know that so many people want it so, so deeply, we only see, the races and the workouts. So I don't know what training looks like day to day for Jess or Sarah or Kira. But I can tell you that when I lay down at night every single night, and then when I go out on every single run, I am dreaming of my next breakthrough and my next huge moment, because it's all I want is to be the very best at this, in this country. So I don't know. It's one of those things where I do think I want it more than anybody else, and I'm willing to do anything. I'm willing to run 130 miles a week and a 27-mile long run. So I'm hopeful it'll pay off.
Emma, that's the clip right there.
Absolutely. Wowzer.
Can we get just a series of you guys talking to Emma on this? I
Yeah,
just want to hear
yeah.
all the little clips of Emma's
Just
name.
maybe she'll just edit. It's like one of that meme where, the social media person is all the in between
That's
clips.
what I mean. That's what
Yeah,
I
it'll
need to
just be
see.
Emma. Yeah. And we'll leave
Yeah.
this in.
It's been interesting because we're trying to figure out like, we want it to be like focused on the trial. So like not your typical interview, but then we all have our different styles and the ways we do things. And
It's a great
then
mix.
when I'm talking to you, it's like I've interviewed you so many times. It's like,
It's like talking
don't
to a
ask.
friend. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we should wrap up though. So we had this lame finish question, and I texted the guys this morning, and I was like, I hate this question.
What is it?
What's a new question then?
We have a new question then, but let's just throw it out one more time to see what Dakotah says. Who made it up? Was it you or Matt? Because it wasn't me.
Okay. I don't know. And now you've biased our audience. It's not a good question.
I can't even say it. It's so bad.
Okay,
Can you say
I
it?
will wait. So, but when you picture the 28 trials, what comes to mind, and like what fuels those training runs in your mind's eye?
I think this is a great question.
That's not the question. But
I
go
changed it.
When I'm thinking about the 28 trials, I am, of course, thinking about making the team, being a returner, standing, on the starting line, being a favorite for once, and that's what I'm training for.
And the favorite doesn't scare you.
No, not at all. I think if any, like something I think back to in 2020 and even in 2024 is on, starting lines, there's the people who their names are announced, Des Linden, Molly Seidel, those people who are like the favorites or a returning Olympian. And I remember standing back from them a few rows and thinking, I want to be up there. That's like the chip on my shoulder. I want people to recognize that I can make this team.
Okay. The question was, what do you envision yourself doing as you cross the finish line at the trials? Like, what's your are you arms raised? What's your touchdown dance?
So this last time when I crossed, my arms were like out very, very wide, and everybody said it was like from Game of Thrones when he goes, "Are you not entertained?" So I might just have to recreate it.
Okay. Love it. See, she answered it well, though. Give us your honest opinion about that question, Dakotah.
Like, I was expecting so much worse from your guys' build-up. I was very anxious.
Okay, now here's the final question. I want your message to the person who is either like trying to qualify for the trials for the first time, or maybe it's that person that was in the boat you were in 2020 and is like, there to learn a lot, but knows like there's so much more in them.
Yeah, I would say to somebody in that position that you are the only person who can put a limit on yourself. And if you just really dig in and believe in yourself more than anybody else, then the sky's the limit for you. And why not? I'm the perfect example. I always say, why not me?
Why not me? Dakotah, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you. I
on Road
love
to the
this.
Trials.
Yeah, happy to be here.